Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. And I would like to specially thank everyone who has been judiciously following as many conversations in this summit as possible. We have reached the final section of this year's Pan IIT World of Technology Summit. This is the beginning of the concluding sessions. Over the last 2 days, we have ventured deep into the opportunities, drawbacks, and pitfalls of almost all of the technological frontiers that mankind has opened for itself. As we open our concluding sessions, I would like to bring the focus of all of you to an aspect of business ecosystem which unites responsibility and opportunity. For the uninitiated, the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, are a collection of 17 interlinked global goals designed to be a blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all. The SDGs were set up in 2015 by the United Nations General Assembly and are intended to be achieved by the year 2030. In this panel discussion, we will look at the interaction and intersection between the SDGs and technology. Our esteemed panelists, with their immense experience in the field, will talk about the ways in which technology can benefit the common man, whether in the form of economic tools or in the form of innovations that help in maintaining the ecological balance. To moderate this panel, I welcome Mr. Ravi Narayan to the stage. Ravi Narayan is the CEO of T-Hub and recently also the Chief Innovation Officer of the state of Telangana. Ravi has played the roles of an entrepreneur, mentor, investor, and a corporate executive who has helped businesses and governments to collaborate with tech startups to fulfill their innovation agendas. He brings with him the experience of tech startup world as well as the knowledge of sustainable development. Raviji, please take the stage.
Thank you, Avikalp. That's a great introduction. Good afternoon to everyone. I'm very honored to be here with you with a esteemed set of speakers from all across the world. In fact, we had 5 speakers today. One of them had to drop out because she was unwell. But we do have a good variety of perspectives that we're going to bring to you today. 2 of them are from Australia, 2 from India, and also from very different paths of sustainability itself. So let me reiterate some of the things that what we're trying to accomplish here. So the panel itself is named as sustainability, and the sustainability as it stands has become a very important thing because of the pandemic has laid bare to us the fact that everything that we are doing is having some kind of an impact, and sustainability is being threatened. And interestingly, unsustainability is a collateral damage that is resulting from the deployment of various technologies that is by the humans that are affecting other humans for their own commercial reasons, for their own greed. It also is affecting other living creatures and the nature itself. Therefore, while that is, I think, a big topic for us to discuss, and how do we go about doing this, as has it become very apparent with the pandemic, it also, is looking for a certain framework, certain ways of, assembling our assets, assembling our energies, orienting our efforts in a certain direction. So that's where the SDGs come in. 17 of them laid down by UN in 2015, and while several of them have certain goals and also a certain timeline, it's a very broad and encompassing kind of a perspective. So while it starts out by saying that they would like to end the poverty and other deprivations, at the same time they also want to make sure that it is not at the expense of having an impact on health, education, or reducing inequality. While that is also a consideration, there is also the necessity to continue the economic growth, but in a much more sustainable way. So we have to do that without necessarily impacting climate, and making sure that we are not impacting too deeply the oceans and the forests and so on and so forth. So it's a fairly broad-based kind of a perspective that they bring to the table. So while we do talk about SDGs, my fellow panelists did not start just because they thought this is what they wanted to accomplish or help the world accomplish. They did it because this came from deep from their passion, and there is a variety of perspectives. Some of them are people who are very clear about this as being an NGO or a not-for-profit, and that's how they're going to build this organization. And there are others who have actually done this for commercial purposes, but they're having an impact on the sustainability nevertheless. So I would like to quickly give you a sense of who are on the panel. So we have Dr. Gayatri Vasudevan. She actually joins us from Dubai today. Thank you very much. Even though you're on your way traveling, you have been able to join us, Gayatri. She is the head of LaborNet, which focuses on sustainable livelihoods for disadvantaged men, women, and youth in urban, rural areas through education, employment, and entrepreneurship. We also have Hemant, who joins us from Adelaide, Australia, and his organization focuses on environmental management and sustainability. Then we have Deepak, who joins us from Delhi. Dehumidification and industrial air treatment is what his organization focuses on. And it's a for-profit organization. They have been doing some wonderful work for the last 55 years and have aspirations of doing even more wonderful work. So you'll hear from him. And finally, my friend from Sydney, Australia, Pete Horsley. His organization, Remarkable, focuses on technological innovation for driving inclusion of people with disability. So as you can see, is a wide variety of perspectives that we'll bring to you. While this discussion can be taken in various different directions, how do we scale such organizations? They're doing some wonderful work already, impacting maybe 3 lakh people. How do we get them to impact 3 million people, maybe? So that's one way of having a discussion. The other one is, how do we provide sustainability for the organizations themselves so that they can keep doing this work for a very long time? Or the third one is technology, which has been the reason why we have had some unsustainability. How do we make technology also come in to provide sustainability solutions for us? So we will focus on the last one of those options today. And so I will start off by inviting our panelists to do a quick self-introduction of themselves as people. How did they come across this particular organization? How did they found it, and what does the organization do? So let's start with the lady on the panel, Gayatri.
Thank you, Ravi. So I was just thinking about 2 words, and I'm going to borrow from Avikalp to start. So he said he started with the term that it is for the common man. So first thing I'd like to say is, let's start with that, right? It's the common person that we're interested in, because I'm often wondering, as an organization, what does it mean when we're looking at disadvantaged? And I'd like to go from there. For us at LaborNet, we said there are 2 things which are required. People have to earn money. Man or woman, you have to earn money. Oftentimes, it is, the decision of how much you are going to earn is determined very early. It is determined by how much you're able to partake of education, how much skills you have, and of course, the circumstance in which you're born. All the 3 are very important factors. So in a nutshell, if I was to explain the organization, there are 2 parts to it. We have the not-for-profit arm, which is called Samba Foundation, which fundamentally looks at building the ecosystem. And I will take an example in a second and explain that. And LaborNet, which is the for-profit arm. And I'll take a classic one in which most of our work is surrounded. Is we work a lot in with migrant workers in the construction and manufacturing sectors, which means that in LaborNet we look at staffing. That means, can we source workers correctly? Can we skill workers correctly? And can we staff them, which is payrolling. In Sambhav, we look at how do we house them? Where are they actually staying? Are there better ways? Are there more energy? Can there be solar, normal energy? Is there electricity? Are they staying 14 people per room? Are they staying 4 people per room? Is food there, water there, sanitization there? Is that available? So that's the sort of a way we have defined it, saying that life and livelihood have to work together. And only then does decent livelihood happen. So that's in a nutshell what LabourNet does. So in LabourNet, we would see everything which is related to the earning, the actual transaction of funds, whether it is gig work or staffing. And in Sambhav, you would see everything which is related to capacity building and livelihood. And obviously, the ratio is very high. Therefore, obviously, we don't touch everything. But our focus has been on skill training, capacity building, productivity improvement, and housing. So that's LabourNet and Sambhav for you. That's the organization I represent.
Thanks, Gayatri. Can we have Hemant introduce himself and the organization, CAE?
Thank you, Ravi. And first of all, I really appreciate the invitation to be on this panel. What a wonderful opportunity. I do believe that IIT alumni is such an influential alumni, and with such an amount of brain power, intellectual capital that sits in this alumni. So to some extent, for them to put sustainability as one of the focus areas is a great gesture. So congratulations for that. Before I talk about Circular Economy Alliance Australia, which is an entity I established 5 years ago, there was a bit of a background I would like to share. Is that I sort of came to this country 30 years ago, and I have been part of a journey which has been really a journey of actually transformation, and that has genesis behind why I established Circular Economy Alliance Australia and the work I do with not just the South Australian government, with Australian government and also agencies like United Nations and the World Bank. As if I just want to talk about currently where we sit in this state, this is not very well known and publicized, but we currently in this state divert nearly 86 to 87% of waste from landfill. So that basically means that from a resource recovery perspective, nearly almost 88% waste that we produce is put back into value chain, which is one of the highest in the world. And countries will struggle to even get 10 to 15% back into value chain. So you can understand how advanced it is. In area of water and water efficiency, because we are the driest state in the driest continent in South Australia, with the use of recycling, reuse of wastewater and stormwater, we lead the world. It's very highly efficient region. We have a very vibrant agricultural and viticulture industry in this state, and that is really powered by recycled wastewater. And the third one is energy. And in the last 15 years, we have seen a huge transformation in this state, where currently nearly 70% of our energy comes from wind and solar and renewable. In terms of the coverage of solar, perhaps one of the highest coverage in the world. So this hasn't happened just by chance. And there has been a very focused activity and coordination happening at basically 6 levels, which is policy, regulation, good governance, market instruments, how to create the right market instruments, education and community engagement, innovation and technology, which is what we are discussing today, and how these things can be pieced together in terms of driving a system change. So this has been the journey of this state, and I was very fortunate to be part of the journey in all my life, working life. So I better now just talk about CAA. We established that 5 years ago to basically scale this whole journey up and reach out to the world. So I'll continue more about it subsequently. Yeah.
Thanks, Hemant. That is absolutely wonderful. So Just if you can take 20 seconds and talk about what circular economy means and what is it that we are looking to accomplish in that.
Circular economy in a nutshell is keeping our resources in circularity, doing more with less, and basically, if you look at everything that we do requires resources, how we can actually get the maximum value of that out of that resource is basically circular economy in very simple terms.
Great, wonderful. Great. So with that, I will turn to Deepak. Deepak, you've been doing this work for the last several years, and you've actually been doing something to help the sustainability of the planet. So I would like you to introduce yourself and the organization that you've built.
Yeah, thank you all for inviting me to be on this panel. As I'm an alumni of BHU, IT and IIT, great institution, great to have gone there. Fortunately, belong to a great family too. And in 1979, I established this company. And in 1981, it was formed into a JV. And at that time, we didn't understand sustainability. I mean, sustainability is a buzzword which has come later, but then we could measure ourselves against that subsequently and see how much we were contributing to that without understanding it, and how much we can do understanding it. So there's a lot everyone can do in business today if they understand sustainability in the manner that then it should be seen by business and corporates. So one of the first things we encountered at that time in 1979 was localization, import substitution, and that led to R&D efforts. So effectively, our company, whatever it was doing, was therefore innovation oriented all through. And today we employ about 1,500 people. We are in the air technologies, very niche areas of air technology, particularly in the built environment. And we have subsidiaries in China, Malaysia, in Nigeria, US, and Brazil, and Switzerland. So we are pretty well spread out, and more than 50% of our product is exported worldwide. We are totally in environmental technologies. So basically, you have to look at environment and environment. In is where we live most of the time and work most of the time. And environment is outside the built spaces where we are impacted by the environment outside. I'll speak a little bit more on that when we may get into technology side. But interestingly, so many things are happening, and we are now involved in, I would say, new technologies which we think can really help sustain some of the goals or the goals that are being set under this UN program. But before I go there, I'd like to say that in our entire work, we initiated CSR activity, corporate social responsibility activity, much before it was mandated by the government. Then we chose 3-4 areas where we would focus on more because of our family heritage. We focus on vision, we focus on environment, and we focused on education. And the lady was mentioning about literacy. Today, we also support migrant labor children in their literacy efforts in terms of the Paralympics that were there recently on Go Sports. 3 of the world medal winners were with our partial support, which we made to this. So we are a little bit happy into how all this can key into all what we refer to as the SDG goals in terms of people, sustainability, and whatever. Also, we are from a technology, I'll give you a very brief one. We are involved in indoor air climate, and therefore we were instrumental in bringing 25 years ago indoor air quality into the country. Actually, I brought indoor air quality to the country. Until 2 years ago, people thought they knew enough about indoor air quality until COVID hit us. Now in COVID, people are understanding indoor air quality in a very important way. And SDG does tell us about how we have to improve our health. And health comes from almost 16 hours that we spend in the built environment. So there's a lot that can be done in that area. We are doing our bit. We are one of the largest exporters of producers in the world for indoor air quality equipment, which is which is used globally. So I would like to just sort of taper off here, and I would say that's enough from an introductory point of view. I enjoy doing what I do. We have, incidentally, we have developed 13 new technologies in the last 12 years, and we filed almost 130 international patents, and more than 50% have already been granted, and the rest are under adjudication and will come along in due course. So we are continuously innovating, and there are two new areas from sustainability point of view. Because we're in the desiccant technologies and we understand refrigeration, day before yesterday, we started our first atmospheric water generator, which means we generate water from air. And clean water, healthy water, it can be done anywhere where there is no water, even in a desert area. So hopefully this technology will develop and evolve very fast the way we have conceived it over the next 1.5 years. And we hope to bring potable water from atmosphere anywhere on the planet. So also carbon capture is a new thing that we are working on. All these are towards sustainable programs. And year before last, we built the first platinum rated factory in the country under the Indian Green Building Council program. So we have a platinum rated first factory in the country. So these are all our efforts. We may not have done this with sustainability in point of view, but today, whatever we are doing, we measure ourselves and we can proudly say that we have contributed significantly.
So looking like Deepak, we have been ahead of times in several ways, all the way from doing the work in sustainability, but also supporting various other things on the community service and all that. So thank you very much. So I'd like to call upon Pete Horsley from Remarkable. Pete, are you there? I don't see you on the screen.
Yeah.
If you could introduce yourself and the organization. Yeah.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me, Ravi, and thanks to my esteemed colleagues as well on the panel. It's great to be with you all. And my name's Pete Horsley and calling from Sydney, Australia, and I'm part of an organisation called Cerebral Palsy Alliance, and I head up a division that is called Remarkable, and essentially it's aimed at accelerating technology for the benefit of people with disability around the world. So we know that more than 1 billion people in the world have a disability, and we start our lives with a form of disability in that we haven't had muscles grown yet that can work our bodies. And then, generally speaking, if we have the fortune of living to a ripe age, we will actually obtain disabilities as we age as well. And so we believe that that segment of our population, those of us with disabilities, are one that does get relatively ignored, and there is so much opportunity there. We actually fell into this a little bit by mistake. The organisation that I'm a part of, it's a relatively large not-for-profit. We have about 2,000 staff. And back in 2012, we were running a global competition, asking people with cerebral palsy all over the world, what's one thing that would change your world? And different people with cerebral palsy all over the world were putting in different responses around that. One man by the name of Alpa in Bursa, in a small country town in Turkey, he said the one thing that would change his world is a solar-powered wheelchair. We were kind of intrigued by that, but didn't kind of think too much of it. But a number of people with cerebral palsy actually said they would love to see this kind of invention. And he had told us that there was a temple that he wanted to worship at on the other side of town. And he was stuck in this catch-22 of not being able to afford a new wheelchair to get into the city where all the jobs were. And so we put it out to the worldwide maker community and said, can anyone make this solar-powered wheelchair? And we actually had a university in Virginia that their engineering students said that we can make it. It's probably still to this day one of the ugliest prototypes I think I've ever seen. It was literally some solar panels on the top of a frame, but it worked. And we gave some money to the university, and they shipped the prototype over to Alpa in Turkey. Within days, he sent us photos outside that temple, and he said, "This is the temple that I want to worship at." And about 6 weeks later, he told us that he had a part-time job. But this was just one wheelchair for one person, and we wanted to do that at scale. So that's where we dreamt up Remarkable, which is around accelerating technology and investing into startups that are developing that technology in order to commercialize them and get them out into the world. And so far, we've invested in 39 companies. The startups themselves have gone on to raise about $30 million in capital, served about 80,000 customers with disability, and created about 500 full-time equivalent jobs in the last 5 years. So it's only just the beginning for us, but we're excited about this journey around impact and the impact that we can have on the lives of people with disability.
Great, Pete. Thank you very much. So as you can see, we have a whole variety of work that's going on in the sustainability space. They are coming together in various different structures. And also one thing that Pete brought up was how they are funded as well is very different. Here, this organization that Pete heads is not only identifying those technological innovations, but they're also investing in them so that they can indeed serve the markets and create something much more scalable than what they have started out with. Deepak runs a for-profit organization that's already doing this because there is a clear market need for it, and there is enough room for expansion through the work that is already being done. Hemant works with the government and various other stakeholders in that region to create that environment for how this thing gets funded and move to the next level. And I see from LaborNet and other organizations that they're not only are they for profit, but there are also various other organizations through their CSR and other efforts are also providing the funding. So I would like to now go and ask for the next couple of questions, which I had actually stated to you as separate questions. Maybe we can merge them given the time constraint. One is, you've been doing some wonderful work, and you've already seen how it's been successful, already learned a lot along the way. So what is your vision now for the next 5 to 7 years? And what do you think are your major challenges in getting there? I'm sure one of them would be funding, maybe the ability for you to get a lot more people rallying behind the work that you're doing. But I just wanted to get your perspective on that. So maybe we will this time start with Hemant.
Look, I think I honestly believe that funding is not a problem. It is the deployment and mobilization of funding which is a problem. Funding, when it happens at a preventative part of this system, is ideally required. Where we see a lot of funding being misplaced and misused is actually towards at the end of the pipe approach system. So, good example is I was talking to someone who heads a multinational, and they spent close to $600 million on making their packaging recyclable. So it's a lot of money in terms of research, investment, then also technology. But despite doing that, 85% of that packaging goes into landfill or into the oceans or into the waterways. So where is this disconnect? There's a disconnect between their work. They have spent close to $500 million, and finally what actually happens. So funding, more than the funding, I think it is the deployment of funding and where it should go is the issue.
And your what your vision is for CEA over the next 5 to 7 years?
I think it's been a very pertinent and very timely question, because I've been working with government, but now we are just pretty much not that far from being operational, where we have established an entity which will be called the Global Center of Excellence in Circular Economy, where the aim is basically to leverage and synergize intellectual and financial capital in the world to drive a quantum change. So I look at circular economy as a system change issue, as a social reengineering issue. So how we actually can leverage work cross sector, cross borders, cross institutions to actually drive that change, because this is going to require coalition building and leadership at the senior most level and going across those borders. So this is where we started a journey, and I'll be very keen to be reaching out to a lot of people in that journey, and also we'll be very keen that people reach out to us in driving that change.
Great. Thanks, Hemant. Deepak, your vision for the next 5 to 7 years for the organization, the challenges that you see along the way.
All right. Let me first of all explain a few things that I had touched upon earlier. First of all, let's talk about the built environment in which we live. And I think you all have heard the word green buildings, and green buildings are a very important part of sustainability. Even to the extent that even a green building, to qualify for a green building, the construction material must come from the neighborhood. It should not have marble coming from 5,000 miles away, etc., etc. There's so many aspects that go into building a green building. India today has fortunately one of the largest registered footprint of green buildings in the world after the United States, as some of you may or may not be aware. So there's a huge movement within the country for green buildings, and almost over 50% green buildings we are associated with as a company or as a group. So I'm very, very happy that this particular momentum, whether it comes from technology or it comes from many other aspects of the 17 SDG initiatives, how they merge into the built environment. In that comes indoor air quality. And indoor air quality is a lot dependent on energy recovery and the fresh air that you provide to the occupants within the building. And in this energy recovery devices, we are one of the largest producers, and some of the best, some of the good buildings in the United States have been done by us. The entire lot of buildings for Beijing Olympics were done by us, coming from India. More than half the buildings in Dubai at one time, now of course other players have come in, were done by us in Dubai. So you can see the impact, and almost 90% of the buildings in India, commercial buildings, which today employ energy recovery for treatment of fresh air, all come from our company. So this has been our working with this, and obviously there is no end to this. So energy, and saving of the energy has been the stay of all the technologies that we do. Now coming back to coming here to the future, you are all familiar with energy storage, battery storage through batteries, and lithium batteries at that. Lithium battery production, to take you very simply, requires dehumidification equipment in which we excel. And 50% of the operating cost of the lithium battery production is concentrated in the equipment that we produce, the energy that it consumes. So obviously you need to have a huge focus on energy saving in the equipment that is going to be producing energy storage. So that ratio has to improve. So we have now at the forefront of the best and the finest technologies for energy saving in that. And that is going to be another frontier, because the lithium battery production is going to erupt and will be migrated to by all, as you can understand, not only for autos, but for every other application. And that will be a huge sustainable program compared to any other fossil fuel energy or any other forms of energy. So we see ourselves doing a lot of work in that area, where we are already leading in technology.
Are there any goals that you have set yourself up for that in that area, Deepak?
Well,
are there primarily something that you are still developing products at this time?
No. Let us say that today, if there is an average energy consumption level by a technology level, let's say 100 units of energy, we are looking at what we can do at 80 units of energy. And we have just filed patents for something that we will be able to do with 50 units of energy. So you can see these are quantum jumps that we are already targeting for, and already these are very advanced levels of this thing. So this is something for real, but not only for real. Let me tell you, the eruption in the business of this energy storage over the next decade is going to be huge. is huge. And also, of course, now there is a competing migration towards hydrogen energy. But in terms of lithium-related energy storage, we'll see a lot. Another area we are going to be working a lot on.
So Deepak will wrap up in 30 seconds, if you don't mind.
Okay, that's fine. I would like to only dwell on it in a limited way, is carbon capture. Carbon is going to be, capture is the future of the future that we need to work on in order to be able to do it in different ways. People are talking about sequestering. I think there are several other options in this. This needs to be studied by the panelists on their own, but I think there's a lot that can be done in that area, and we are sort of getting ready for it. And I think that's all that I'd like to say within that 30-second wrap up. And
thanks, Deepak.
Wish you all well.
Yeah. Pete, would you like to talk about what you have set for yourself as goals for the next 5-7 years, and what are the challenges in getting there, you think?
Yeah, we're excited about the next 5 to 7 years. We feel like we're only just getting started, and it's a little known fact that some of the most used technologies that we have all around us each and every day was actually designed in the first instance actually for someone with a disability. The World Wide Web was created when Vint Cerf actually was doing a research project with some colleagues, and he was trying to figure out ways that he didn't have to communicate on the phone because he was partially deaf. Even the SMS was actually designed by some Finnish inventors who were helping deaf people to be able to communicate to each other as well. And so we really do see this kind of area of constraint around a kind of extreme use of people with disability can be the flourishing of whole new areas of technology. We're excited about kind of what's happening in brain-computer interface, certainly around robotics and AI, and we're certainly wanting to back companies that are investing more into that space. And then I think some of the challenges that we do have is that there are still pockets of this innovation kind of happening around the world. And so just this month, we've actually launched a global network of accelerating partners. And our good friend Pratik in India is one of the founding members of that group. With AssistTech Foundation. We've also got accelerators in Kenya and China, New Zealand, Canada, the US. And so we're starting to create this network effect of bringing together some of these incredible thinkers around the world, and hopefully then bringing investors to these startups so that we can see a greater kind of connection between them. But I think that the one big challenge that we've also got is around distribution. And so getting these technologies out into the hands of the people who need them most. Certainly the vast number of people with disability are in low and middle income countries, and so we have to do more around how we create distribution systems into those places. So there's some of the challenges we're dealing with.
So you talked about distribution, Pete. Distribution also means that the fact that the markets are not as commercially lubricated through the ability for you to get through these channels. So obviously we find that same with the sister tech, and I'm sure you do too. So it's one thing to create a fantastic innovation, and they're probably successful because of the local ecosystem understanding and taking the support. How does this global network help them get their products to other parts of the world? Just wanted to understand how you feel that you can provide that scalability to these organizations, these startups.
Yeah, and certainly, like we know the Australian market really well, but I don't know the Indian market as well as I know the Australian market. And so, to tap into the market intelligence that exists in AssistTech Foundation, or to tap into the market intelligence that is in Africa through Innovate Now, and connect them to people who are actually distributing their products, their services in those places. We can then have the very immediate aspiration of becoming global businesses. And so that is part of it. And then the other part of it is actually to bring greater amounts of capital into the network as well. So we have to see these small nascent companies get the required funding that they need to be able to build global teams and to build those distribution channels around the world as well.
Great, thanks, Pete. So Gayatri, yes, Pete actually got introduced to us through Pratik, so so that's connection is already there. So, wanted your thoughts on what you have set yourself up as goals for the next 5 to 7 years. Where do you think your challenges are in getting to those goals?
I think we've had a reawakening with COVID on what we are doing. So the next 5 years is very, very important to us. One is we've decided to, as an organization, pivot and focus entirely on an outcome. And health and energy, we believe, are the two outcomes we're going to be focusing on. And I'll spend some time on that. So essentially, as an organization for the last decade or so, we've been working on capacity building and then ensuring that livelihood has been done. But I think the last year and a half has taught us that that does not mean that your society is taken care of. For example, and I'll take 3 roles and then explain what I mean by it. The role of an electrician, a plumber, a medical equipment repair technician. All of these are areas we've been working on, right? Building skill sets and capacities. But what we saw was a disintegration of all the 3. There was no water in primary healthcare centers. We all know what is the condition of toilets. The sophisticated equipment came, but there was no wiring system. Electricity outages were common. Oxygen concentrators could not be fixed. Ventilators, BiPAPs could not be fixed. So one of the things that we've decided to look at is to see the nexus between the outcome needs to be health or energy, and can society be serviced? What is the manner in which? And therefore, livelihood obviously comes in, but questions around who pays will come in around this, because the society which needs to be serviced obviously does not get serviced. Government primary healthcare center, government school, taluk headquarter general hospital, etc., don't get serviced. So we're looking to create coupons where we can create skills, but also ensure that the skill is utilized. So almost like a service coupon availability at a local level, which will ensure that these skills are available and can get fixed at a local level. So the organization will be working on skilling and capacity building, but to look at ensuring that the infrastructure or the adjacencies which make life better are actually equipped. And I'd like to give you a particular statistics here. A primary healthcare center caters to about 10 to 12 gram panchayats, which means that with populations anywhere between 2,500 to 5,000 per panchayat, which obviously means if the immediate health center is unable to service it, it's going to fail. So our intent is to work around this and ensure that through both the arms, we provide service through one arm, build capacity, build the ecosystem for the other. I think that's the task we've set ourselves for.
Sorry, I put myself on mute. So what are some of the challenges that you think you will face in getting to them?
I think the first challenge is obviously the people who are required at the, if you have to service the rural economy, are not there in that area. So in my opinion, a lot of it is because it's economically unviable. Right? Otherwise, bigger companies would have come and done it. So it's not that the technology exists. For example, Uber exists, Ola exists, Urban Company exists. Can we create similar ask for mechanisms where hyperlocal service delivery is available, where payment capacity isn't there? The state is obviously not able to pay. Then what is the mechanism by which we create sustainability? Obviously, we cannot go on complete. I mean, we will go to kind people like Deepak and put up a hat out and say please pay, but it would be unrealistic to expect the country to get to sustainability. So we need to have co-pay models, blended finance models that we'll have to work on to ensure these models succeed. So I think our task will be to work with bright minds who are part of this, who are listening in and a part of the panel, and figure out ways to where to get. But I'm convinced if we are able to do 10 districts, we'll be able to scale that up. The idea is to pilot extensively over the next few years to ensure that we have systems in place so we don't see the education and health system just collapsing on us. And to me, the nexus between health, energy, and human capacity and livelihood is absolutely very interlinked.
Thanks, Gayatri. There are some, so I'll just see if anybody would like to add anything specifically in terms of how technology is something that you are employing in a fashion that helps you with meeting those goals. I think both Deepak and Hemant raised their hands, so maybe Deepak, if you want to start.
Yeah, I think I'll digress from your question, but since majority of the people, I assume, in the audience will be from industry and business, I'd like to leave a thought with you, what I was able to download yesterday from this UN list. It says the new goals result from a process that has been more inclusive than ever, with governments involving business, civil society, and citizens from the outset. We are all in agreement on where the world needs to go. Fulfilling these ambitions will take an unprecedented effort by all sectors in society, and business has to play a very important role in the process. So we must understand the role of business in this. And now I'll go to the next one. No matter how large or small, and regardless of their industry, all companies can contribute to the SDG. While the scale and scope of the global goals is unprecedented, the fundamental ways that business can contribute remain unchanged. The UN Global Compact asks companies to do business responsibly and then pursue opportunities to solve social challenges through business innovation and collaboration. That's the message I think the panel would like to and should leave with the audience, as the majority of the audience would be from business or the corporate world.
Great. Thanks, Deepak. Yeah, go ahead, Hemant.
If I may, I would like to just add a few things. Technology is very important, but I just want to sincerely make a point that technology is not a silver bullet solution. If you need to move towards sustainability, we need to create the enabling environment for technology to work. A good example is in India, you got so many waste to energy plants being put and none of them work because the fundamental required, in terms of segregation of waste so that your waste to energy plant works, is not happening. So the education has to be there and the proper commercial or proper market instruments have to be there for that thing to happen. So technology should not be seen in isolation as a silver bullet solution, number one. We also need to understand at a macro level what's happening. And that will again, perhaps is, that just highlights the point Deepak made about collaboration, because what are the trends? We first time last year, as a humanity, we crossed 100 billion tons of material extraction. It was 27 billion tons only 30 years ago. So in 30 years, our material extraction in the world has gone from 30 billion tons per year to 100 billion tons. And out of that, only 9% is coming back into the value chain. And the rest of it is lost. And we are assuming that we are living in a world of infinite resources. It is not going to work. It's not going to happen. So somewhere at a macro level, we have to understand, look at even our consumption patterns. An average person in Asia Pacific region now is putting 2,000% more waste into the environment than what was done only 25 years ago. So this is not sustainable because we are living in a finite world. So this is where, again, I strongly urge that we got to take it as a whole system approach. And we trying to work at a macro level. I understand with agencies, governments, industries, partners, but we need to really understand what is at stake here. And then I'm not just saying this as a crisis. I'm saying there is a great opportunity. Like there's a report on India, for example, where there's just 4 sectors: transport, construction, and a few sectors. If we go adopt a circular economy model, they say that the GDP of the country could go up by nearly 33%. So there is this untapped potential by actually reevaluating and making our businesses, services, our society circular. And this linear model that we currently are using has to be transformed into circular. So this is what I'm really very passionate about.
So what does it take for us to get more and more people excited about this? So if it's whatever you said, the figures are very compelling. What does it take for people to understand this? Is it too expensive? Is it too difficult, laborious? Why is it that people don't adopt this so naturally?
I think it is not expensive at all. This is what 25 years ago, there was a book written which was called Factor 4. And through millions of examples, that book quoted that for the lifestyle we currently have, we could achieve the same lifestyle with only 25% of our energy and material input. So imagine this, that we can be 75% more efficient in the way we use our resources. It requires sustainability should not cost us. In fact, circular economy, there's a report by Accenture, which was done in 2015, talks about a $4.5 trillion per annum benefit to the humanity, to the world by circular. So it is perfectly possible. I mean, Deepak would have a number of examples about energy efficiency, how it and water efficiency and those things, but it is not difficult. It is just requires better understanding of what is at play and how we can really create much better multi-sectoral collaboration to achieve that change.
Yeah, Deepak.
I think Hemant has, I like the word he's used, circular. Maybe it's synonymous with his company's or business name, but recycle and reuse should be the mantra.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And people understand that. And unless we look at it every day, even our own homes, whatever is the waste, we can put it somewhere and it can be recycled back. And segregation is the name of the game, source control. And that's it. If you do that, a huge potential for recycle and reuse of everything. Yeah. Why are we talking about plastic and reuse? Every aspect can be taken care of. So there is a strong message, but we tend to forget as soon as we leave these sessions. The practicing of this at homes has to start with the children first to make everything sustainable. Make them learn young, catch them young, practice it in our businesses, in every aspect of life. I think there's opportunity.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can I build on something that Hemant said as well, Ravi? I think that, there are so many missed opportunities that we have the opportunity to take advantage of at this present time as well. And so technology is a great enabler of those things. When there are a number of the SDGs that we're, and the companies that we're accelerating are tackling. And one of those is around inclusive economic growth. It's a known factor that we have a talent shortage around kind of data analytics that can help solve some of these really big challenges that we've got around climate change. And there is a massive untapped potential of the neurodiverse population that have natural innate abilities to do data analytics, to see pattern recognition, and yet the very kind of test that we use to see if we're going to employ them is a social test, and many of our neurodiverse friends fail those social tests of going through a job interview and being interviewed in that way. And yet we've got a company, one of the companies that we've backed, is helping to actually assess skills of those people in order to get them into jobs that are now they're making companies more sustainable. They're making them more profitable by being able to tap into this talent. So I think some of this is just really about being able to look at things in a different way. And as Hemant and Deepak have both said, that there's so much opportunity here to continue to have an impact, but also to make money at the same time. These things don't have to be mutually exclusive.
Yeah,
it's like nature. It's like nature, how nature regenerates itself. What happens in a natural ecosystem where the nature regenerates itself, you can have the same thing in a material economy with where we can regenerate the whole system. So it is perfectly possible.
Yeah, I think several of you alluded to the fact that education, I think that's where a lot of things need to be done, because people are unaware, so they're just following a model that they have only seen, and they have not been exposed to the possibilities that some of us have already unveiled and are working on it ourselves. There's a question from the audience. It says, involvement of school and college students as brand ambassadors for sustainability or SDGs is yet to gain momentum. How about inclusion of SDGs focused credits in their academics? Any thoughts on that? Any of you?
It's a great idea. It's a great idea.
You want
Deepak?
me to comment on that, Ravi?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, Ravi, I'm a board member on a particular trust, and that particular trust is very focused on sustainability and whatever it may be doing. But one of the things that has resonated across the board there is catch them young. And we are now going to be developing modules which can be very interestingly taught at the school level, at primary, within middle level, and at the senior level. Only focus on sustainability and how it can be made interesting. And this is something which has to be done at that level. If we don't do that, if we do it now and we do it in a very interesting way, you can create a generation in 10 years of people who are conscious of sustainability.
Yep. Gayatri, you had something?
Yeah.
Thanks, Deepak. Yeah.
See, I think it is very important to catch them young, but we shouldn't include it as another course. See, this is a problem that we often have, and I can, our form of education itself is exceedingly top-down. It's not, there are no cross-functionalities. If we have to teach this, and there are 17 SDGs, the interlinkage between each is absolutely given. So I think in each subject, how do you really pick it up and teach is very important. For example, as I said, energy, water, waste are all things which can be part of the very subject they're learning. It can be English or Hindi. It doesn't have to be only a separate subject that we create. I think that's the key that I think it needs to be practiced.
Yeah.
And I'd also add to that, I think.
Yeah.
Just 1 second, Deepak. Let Pete add to it. I'll come back to you. Yeah, please go ahead, Pete.
I think that actually a number of young people themselves are already seeing these challenges. We can't think that, we have to educate them for them to learn these things. They're growing up understanding the impacts of climate change. They're growing up seeing the impacts of kind of mass migration around the world. And I think it is about giving them opportunity to be able to act on that, to be able to encourage them and cheer them on as they do that, because they're going to do business in ways that we haven't even imagined before. But it's about enabling them to have that lens, I think, and cheering them on.
Great. Deepak, we have a couple of minutes left in the session,
I'll take
quickly.
30 seconds to add to what Gayatri said. Gayatri, it doesn't have to be part of a curriculum. It doesn't. You have to sensitize the kids at that age, and they're absorbing all this in an interesting way. So it should not be part of a curriculum. And second is that they should not even understand what is GDP or whatever we want to, how do we call that, as SDG. It should not be part of SDG at all. And how does it key into that? Don't load them with that. It's just what is sustainable. even items like how important it is to shut off the light in the room when you go. All of this adds up in their mind and they become so conscious of it. So there are a lot of things that they can learn as to make things sustainable. And as Pete was saying, today we are already aware that something is happening in the world. And why is it happening? How do they correlate with what is happening? You don't have to be tested in an exam for that.
But the reason I made that comment was that, we ended up with the skill university. To me, it's an oxymoron, right? A university is theoretical. Why do you need a skill university? Each university's students should have skills. So in India, we have this penchant. The moment we have a word, we tend to create a course out of it, right? We have vocational education as a course. To me, it needs to be integrated. So I would 100% agree with you. And the reason I made that comment is we should be careful. Right. We need to lead a sustainable life. We need to make it interesting, but not as a silos. That's what I meant.
Perfectly right.
So, I think we're running out of time. Yes, let me just wrap up very quickly. So, to the audience, as you can see, we just gave you a very, very small of the work that is going on in the sustainability areas all across the world. And these are pioneers in a way, because of the fact that we have now taken back the responsibility to bring sustainability back into the picture, into the way we live, the way we work, and the way we interact with the rest of the world. So there are multiple things that are happening within these organizations, but they also have taken the responsibility of not just doing a great job themselves, but they're also trying to create great ecosystems around them that other people also could learn and begin to do this journey themselves, including the fact of educating people. So one is, we talked about students, but that's kind of a problem to a future, rather the education to the future. But I think there's a lot of education to be done today to our own people, because I think the kinds of numbers that Hemant shared with us are very, very compelling, that why should we wait until later? We do it now. And I think also technology, much as it has created this confusion and created this disaster in a way, is also holding the key to our ability to build much more sustainable solutions in a sustainable world. So with that, I would like to thank all my fellow panelists, and also thank Pan IIT for giving us this forum to have this discussion. Hope you got a lot of good insights into this sector. Love to continue this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks a lot to all the speakers. Thank you for coming.
Okay.
Thank you.